This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Summer is supposed to be an opportunity to slow down, but when you look at your kids, you can't help but notice that your kids are growing up fast. Help them build independence as they grow with Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app for families, where parents can keep an eye on kids' money habits while kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. It's the easy, convenient way to raise financially smart kids. Get your first month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Assassination attempt on former President Trump, President Biden dropping out of the race, and boycotting the Olympics? Follow me down the rabbit hole. Hello, friends, and welcome back to The Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Danny, and today we're doing current events because this was going to be a bonus episode where it was just going to be kind of like short and sweet, go over the assassination attempt, and then President Biden dropped out of the race. And we're like, okay, well, we'll cover that too. And then whatever is going on with the Olympics, I was like, all right, we're covering everything, right? So it's turned into a current events episode. So here we are. Thank you all for sending in. I've gotten so many messages about all of these topics. So we're going to jump right in and learn about this. And this wasn't actually my plan for this week's episode because this was supposed to just be a bonus episode that turned into so much more. So I'm going to try to get this week's episode out as a bonus episode because it directly relates to Bohemian Grove. So look out for that. I'm trying to get everything put out for you guys as fast as possible. Anyway, on July 13th, 2024, while at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, former President Donald Trump was shot at. And in fact, he was shot in the head. Multiple shots were fired. I've seen conflicting reports as to how many. I have 11 shots written down here, but I've also seen 5. I've seen 8. So we're just going to go with multiple shots were fired. One hit Trump in his right ear. One spectator, Corey Comprator, he was a former fire chief, was killed. He was killed shielding his wife and daughter from the bullets. 2 other people were critically injured. They were airlifted out of the farm field and they were taken. It seems like they're in stable condition now. After Trump was hit in the ear and realized just like what was going on, he got down behind the podium. Then his security team jumped on top of him. So they were like really, really slow to this because he got hit. He touched his ear. He looked at his hand. He realized it's blood. And then he got down all before security ever tackled him to the ground. They actually did a piss poor job as security. After a few minutes, security got Trump up, and Trump, like bloody from being shot, could be seen shouting and like reaching above his security team saying, "Fight, fight." And like he's got a fist above his security detail. Again, terrible. Because you want to get that guy off the X as fast as possible. You don't know if there's multiple shooters out there. You need to get him gone. And they did a really bad job. We're going to get even further into just how bad a job they did in just a little while. But we're going to start with this being an inside job. Because I think that's where it kind of starts, right? And I'm not just saying like a Republican inside job or a Democrat inside job, but like politically, because nobody really likes Trump. The Republicans don't really love Trump. I mean, some of them do, but some of them don't. The deep state for sure doesn't like Trump because they can't control him. So I think that that's kind of where it stems from, is like a deep state control situation. They have been sending secret messages about killing Trump for a while now. In January, Alex Soros, who's George Soros' son, tweeted something about crime and inflation, basically saying that they're kind of like they're gone. In the tweet, it included 2 pictures. One of them was like a piece of glass that had been shot. You don't see the bullet. It's like assumed that there was a bullet, where the glass is shattered with a circle as if a bullet went through it. And then the other one is a hand holding money. Ideally, these pictures would be indicating the crime and inflation that the tweet was talking about, but the amount of money in the hand tells a different story. So there is $47 in the picture, and if Trump is elected, he would be the 47th president. The way they count this is like non-consecutive terms. So Trump was the 45th president. Had he been reelected, he would still only have been the 45th president. But because Biden was elected, Biden became the 46th president. If Trump's reelected, he's now also the 47th president, if that makes sense. On top of that, Trump also has Agenda 47, which details like policies that would be implemented if he was elected. So 47 kind of has double insinuation, like he would be the 47th president if elected, and you got this 47th agenda happening. Anyway, by tweeting this bullet hole and the $47, Soros was indicating that they need to take Trump out, basically. But it was hidden in a cute little tweet about crime and inflation. Whatever. It is reported that Biden was also overheard on a private conversation, like a private phone call, saying it's time to put Trump in a bullseye. So I don't know if it's like everyone was in cahoots. They were just waiting for like the go ahead or what. But the fact that they want to kill Trump or they are planning this means that they do see him as a viable threat. So initially, they named Mark Violets as the shooter. Violets is linked to Antifa, and we know that Antifa is an aggressive liberal group. Some people would not call them aggressive, but if you can open your eyes and see the violence that they have inflicted upon our country, you will know that they are aggressive. The news broke about Violets like way too fast. He was identified as the shooter and that he was arrested within minutes of the shooting actually happening. In fact, the tweet that broke the news, or one of the tweets that broke the news, shared a photo of Violets wearing this black beanie, black sunglasses, a black jacket. He looked like somebody that you would assume would be responsible for an act like this. You're like, yep, looking at that picture, he's for sure a shooter. But like, I don't know. I feel like anybody could put on a black beanie and black glasses and a black jacket and be like, look, I took a picture. Now you can frame anybody. Anyway, the tweet that was releasing this photo and saying that this guy was arrested, that he's the shooter, blah, 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 it was released at 6:12 p.m. Oddly enough, in my sources, I found that the shooting actually occurred around 6:10. Another one said 6:13. So yeah, you have a couple minutes here and there, but how did they break that news so fast? It's like they had it all keyed up, ready to just hit enter. It's very odd. Smells like a scapegoat to me. Of course, there were other tweets about the same thing that came out later, but that specific tweet timing really got me. I guess they're X's now, they're not tweets, and whatever. It's also weird that his name is Violets, like red and blue mixed together, and they created Violet. Anyway, we know that they decided not to frame Mark Violets. I mean, he didn't do it, excuse me. Instead, they decided to go with a Republican, a 20-year-old named Thomas Matthew Crooks. Crooks was from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, and worked in a kitchen at a retirement home, from what I understand. He was a registered Republican, although he donated to the Democratic Party. That's odd. I don't know many Republicans that donate to the Democratic Party. That just doesn't happen very frequently. Anyway, they make a point to say that Crooks has a membership to a local shooting club. But, I mean, I have a membership to a local shooting club. There are a lot of people in the country that have memberships to local shooting clubs in their areas. They could enjoy shooting. They could want to get better. They want to protect themselves. There's a million reasons that you would have a membership to a shooting club. That doesn't mean you're going to go shoot up anything, let alone try to assassinate the president or the former president. He was also wearing a Demolition Ranch shirt. If you don't know what Demolition Ranch is, it's a YouTube channel. Matt Carricker, he has this like big ranch with, it's just land out in Texas. He also has like, he's a veterinarian. He has like Off the Ranch YouTube. He's got a vet ranch YouTube. He's got Demolition Ranch YouTube. He enjoys shooting guns. He enjoys like having fun with his friends and doing like silly things on his ranch that he dedicates for guns, and they're very safe about things. He also owns like a shirt production company. I know a lot about this because my husband actually watches Demolition Ranch as well. So do 11 million other subscribers. So he's got a big following. Chances are that one of them is not going to be a great guy. Unfortunately, Crooks did decide to put that shirt on that morning. I don't think that Matt Carricker has anything to do with any of this. He actually put out a video like apologizing, basically saying that it was unfortunate that he was wearing his shirt, but also he's not going to vet every single person that buys a shirt because he sends shirts all over the world. So needless to say, Crooks did enjoy shooting, watching videos about shooting, different things. You can tell by the fact that he has a Demolition Ranch shirt on and he has a shooting range membership. He enjoys guns. Crooks used a quote-unquote AR-style rifle that was his father's gun, and the day of the shooting, he purchased a 50-round box of ammo. Crooks was shot on the scene by the snipers that were on the roofs trying to protect former President Trump, and there may have been a second shooter in the nearby water tower. So this is possible. We've seen evidence of potentially a person on top of the water tower. I saw a video literally on top of the water tower. You can see a figure, kind of like a black figure because the video is really far away, step out from behind the top piece of the water tower, and then they step back behind the piece where they kind of disappear out of the camera, and then they step back out. You have to watch really carefully because the video is really far away, but you can see it. And also there's some videos of the stands where you see basically like another bullet hitting and like dust flying away, and that's not coming from the right direction. It's coming from more like a water tower direction versus the building that Crooks was on direction. But the thing is, after Trump was shot and Corey was killed, you had these other two that were injured. After all of that, and they shot Crooks, there were no more shots fired at the rally. Like everyone, the shots were done. So maybe there was a second shooter. Maybe there wasn't. Maybe the person on the water tower was the shooter all along. Crooks was up on the roof as a scapegoat and he never actually shot anything. That's a possibility. But there's some pretty odd things that almost predict that this is going to happen. So first thing is the Illuminati card game. So in the 80s, this card game was released. It's a classic strategy game of conspiracy and world domination. And yes, I have ordered the game. It will be here soon. Obviously, I love conspiracy theories, but I also really enjoy games. So I will be playing this game because I mentioned this game twice in this episode. I'm really excited to see what it has in store. Anyway, one of the cards has a man on it, and it looks a lot like Donald Trump, like almost identical. Like they took Donald Trump's face and animated it, put it on this card. The card reads, "Enough is enough. At any time, at any place, our snipers can drop you. Have a nice day." That's odd. It's very strange. Granted, I'm sure that this card game, or this card is just for the game, right? You get to shoot somebody's character, and that's what that means. And it definitely does not mean that eventually we will shoot Donald Trump because he will run for president, and we don't like that. It was planned. And somehow, the same people that write for The Simpsons are also making card games. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that The Simpsons also predicted that this was going to happen? As they predict, like, everything. And they're almost spot on about a lot of the things that they're predicting. But that's just a silly animated TV show. Don't worry, I'll be doing a whole episode about that. But they aren't the only people predicting the future. So there's this man named Brandon Biggs, and he explained, he did this YouTube video with the pastor from Discover Church. I assume that that's the church that he goes to. And him and another member of the congregation, I am assuming, I don't really know everybody's roles. There's 3 people in the video. So Brandon Biggs, this other lady, and the pastor, they were all talking about these prophecies that God had come to them and told them these things, right? So he is saying that he saw the country on fire and Trump was rising up. And there was an attempt on his life and the bullet blew past his ear and busted his eardrum. When he was saying this, Biggs was pointing to his right ear, suggesting that that was like the ear that was going to be busted. Well, Trump's right ear was the one that was hit. He continues to say that this instance made Trump, quote unquote, radically born again, because Trump has said like he's a born again Christian, all these things, but this makes him like radically born again, that this attempt on his life and then he was saved and God saved him, God spared him and all these things. So this was 4 months ago. This video was actually about the solar eclipse. So it wasn't even about President Trump. And they were talking about everything that's going to happen with the solar eclipse. And this guy's like, but I saw this. This is what God showed me. And here we are a couple months later seeing Trump being shot. But all of this could have been stopped. Like there were so many people being like, look, somebody's going to do something. Like, can't you see somebody's going to do something? And nobody did anything about it. So there was a ladder resting against the building that was reported because it was suspicious. Somebody was like, hey, there's this weird ladder just like against this building. Do we think that we should do something about it? Civilians are reporting this to local law enforcement. The ladder was placed there before the rally. So how did they not secure the surrounding buildings? Like, even if it was just maintenance for the building, they would have asked them to move the ladder until the rally was over. But no one seemed to notice or even really care that there was a ladder there. Local police did notify Secret Service before the rally that they lacked the resources to position the patrol car outside of the warehouse. So normally when they do these rallies, the campaign will pay the local law enforcement to come help with security at these rallies, right? Well, Trump is notorious for actually not paying them when they're helping. So after they put out all these resources, he doesn't always pay. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he doesn't pay the full amount. Like there's some, again, conflicting stories, conflicting reports as to if he is or isn't. But I have a feeling that maybe he's not actually paying for the local enforcement. So these guys were like, hey, we really just can't spare one more car to put them here. And the warehouse was inside the security perimeter that was supposed to be controlled by the Secret Service. So why didn't they pull security in and around the warehouse? Like that was their security. But they decided, nope, that's for the local law enforcement. Local law enforcement says, hey, we can't do this. We don't have enough people. Secret Service said, well, tough. And so nobody secured the building. Convenient. And then you've got crooks walking around near and around the building an hour before the shooting and nothing was done. But this is weird to me that he's like just walking around out in broad daylight. He's not trying to be sneaky, nothing. He's just out there. Almost as if he's wanting to get caught or he's teasing. It's just interesting because most people would be super nervous, especially if they knew that they're about to shoot the former president running for president again. But again, there were several people that saw crooks climbing up the ladder and onto the roof, and they reported it to officials that were at the rally. And they were like, hey, this guy's getting on this roof. Like, this is weird. These are civilians reporting this to law enforcement. It's like when you're in the airport and they're like, hey, if you see a suspicious bag, report it to somebody. And then, like, most people don't pay attention. These people at this rally are paying attention. And they're like, this is suspicious. Somebody do something. And they really just didn't. I mean, local police had no way to contact Secret Service to tell them what was going on. They didn't have a channel on their radios that they were both a part of, which I feel like doesn't make any sense, actually. That's kind of a breakdown in security, a breakdown in communication happens like that when there actually is an attempt on somebody's life. Like, you can't get notified about it. Oh my gosh. This actually, how bad they did kind of begs the question, like, is it complete incompetence or was it malicious? It's just like super, super strange. In fact, one of the snipers even saw Crooks on the roof about 3 minutes before he started firing and was ordered not to shoot. Tell me this wasn't planned. Are you kidding me? Secret Service shot 8 shots, then announced that the shooter was dead, and then a 9th shot rang out. So this may be further evidence that there was a second shooter. It's not known. Maybe it was just somebody mishearing. I don't know. Outside of security doing a horrific job, there wasn't even enough security at the rally. So there was only like a couple full-time Secret Service agents in attendance. The rest were Department of Homeland Security agents that didn't provide security regularly. So they weren't really prepared. And actually, I heard on a different podcast, because I was listening to one about this, and they said that Secret Service is so used to nothing happening that they might just assume that nothing's going to happen. So in this case, they pulled his regular agents. They put in these other agents that aren't used to running security as a job. They work for the Homeland Security, but they don't actually do regular security, especially for a former president. But Jill Biden, who was giving a speech in Pittsburgh the same day, had 3 times the Secret Service that Trump had. And Trump's event was obviously outdoors, where it's a lot harder to secure, whereas Jill's event was in a very small venue with much fewer people, but an inside event is much easier to secure. So, like, tell me how that makes any sense. But of course, there's more crazy things. So BlackRock may have been involved. So allegedly, Crooks got a scholarship from BlackRock. I couldn't find hard evidence, but I remember seeing something about that. I couldn't re-find it though. So that's why I'm saying allegedly he got a scholarship from BlackRock. May or may not. But also, there was an advertisement that aired in the Bethel Park area in 2022. Thomas Matthew Crooks was in the ad quite a bit, actually. So he wasn't the main character of the ad, but they did film it at his high school, and it was focused around a teacher in a classroom. He was one of the kids in the classroom as well. Of course, he was not the only kid featured in the video, but this ad and the fact that they went to this area to find the school to do this ad, it's kind of odd timing. So it made me question and wonder if maybe while they were there, they were actually looking for kind of like an awkward kid that wasn't super popular, that he looks like he would be a shooter, right? And they put this kid through MK Ultra to create a sleeper cell. That way, when the time came, they could use him as either a scapegoat or actually as a shooter. And I know what you're thinking, and I'm already on it. We need another MK Ultra episode. Yes, I hear you. I'm working on it. I'm working on a lot of things, actually. But again, in the other episode or the other podcast I was listening to, it was actually the Sean Ryan show. He has the owner operator of Blackwater, which is a private security firm, on to talk about the Trump assassination. And this guy says, and I believe he was a Navy SEAL as well. I know Sean Ryan was a Navy SEAL. He says that I know really, really good snipers, and I would not trust them to take a shot at me and just hit my ear from that far away. That's a lot of trust to put into somebody's hands. So that was his evidence for thinking that maybe Trump didn't plan this. Because a lot of people are like, well, Trump planned it. That way he could get more votes, kind of get the people going a little bit more. That seems, at first I was like, well, maybe. I mean, that's okay. But after he said that, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I would trust anybody to take a shot at my head. Seems real sketchy to me. Anyway, there are other similarities. President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. President John F. Kennedy was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald, allegedly. Now, President Trump's attempted assassin was Thomas Matthew Crooks. What's up with the 3 names? Don't get me wrong, I have 3 names, right? I have a middle name, but I don't go by all 3 names. Most people have middle names. I mean, I don't call my kids by all three of their names unless they're in trouble. It's just very odd that we're calling these assassins by all three of their names. Why did they originally say it was Violets and then switch to Crooks? Are they keeping the second shooter a secret because they like the poetry of this situation? Was there a second shooter at all? I know I keep bringing it up. But that's because I kept finding it in my research. I don't know if there was a second shooter. I'm just presenting you guys with the facts that I found. And then you got Colorado State House Representative Scott Bottoms telling people that the FBI and the people controlling the FBI and the State Department were responsible for this attack. A little backstory, Bottoms pointed the finger at the FBI for the January 6th events as well. I think it really does come down to the deep state and who they think they can control in the presidential seat. Because I think at the end of the day, they don't think they can control Trump. But it seems like they can't control President Biden anymore either. As many of you can imagine, researching conspiracy theories every day can cause some uneasiness in my life. On top of that, my military career left me with some emotional scars. Whether you're dealing with the daily grind or just need to unwind after a long day, Calm with Kava helps you escape the chaos and find your inner peace. I tried it and it helped settle my thoughts and unwind at the end of the day. I also took some in the morning after having a nightmare to clear my head to get ready for the day. Kava, a traditional Polynesian root, has been known for centuries for its calming properties. And now, Calm with Kava brings this ancient secret to you in a delicious, ready-to-drink form. Made with natural ingredients, you know you'll be getting a pure and authentic experience. What's cool is it comes in a variety of flavors and it's non-alcoholic, so you can enjoy it anytime throughout the day. And Calm with Kava's starter kit is there to help listeners who want a bit of a guide to using it find their footing and feel comfortable. Visit calmwithkava.com/podcast and discover a range of flavors designed to soothe your mind and body. Use promo code RABBITHOLE10 at checkout for a special discount on your first order. That's KALM with KAVA.com/podcast and use code RABBITHOLE10 for your first Calm with Kava purchase.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Just days after the assassination attempt, President Joe Biden had to cancel a bunch of upcoming events because he had COVID. The timing was rather odd. At first, people were like, okay, well, he's canceling these events because he doesn't want an attempt on his life as well. Obviously, people are pretty hot and heated about this election. Then, on Sunday, July 21st, President Biden announced that he would be dropping out of the presidential race and he would be supporting his current vice president, Kamala Harris, on her run for president. So he did this all via a statement on social media. We did not see him. We saw this letter that he wrote. That's all. He said he just wanted to fulfill his duties as the current president and then kind of be done. Although he did endorse Harris for the Democratic nominee, he cannot appoint a nominee. So after Biden's post, Harris actually issued a statement stating that she is honored to have the president's endorsement and her intention is to earn and win this nomination. And honestly, I did see this coming from a mile away, although I thought that they would try to run Michelle Obama instead of Joe Biden. But Kamala Harris makes a lot of sense too. They're trying to put a black woman in as president. Totally makes sense. But a couple things here. Barack Obama has not come out and endorsed Harris yet. And honestly, he does still have quite the pull in Washington, D.C. So the fact that he hasn't endorsed her and then also BLM isn't really standing behind her, those are some interesting things. But of course, like these conspiracies just start flooding in. So firstly, Biden was in Las Vegas just after Trump's assassination. So that is actually where he tested positive for COVID. He was there like July 16th, July 17th. He announced that he had COVID on July 17th. However, it is rumored that while he was out there, he slipped and he hit his head. And dude's old, so hitting your head, being that old, like that can really mess you up. If he did hit his head, he might be in critical condition. Some people think that maybe he was in a coma. Some people thought that he was dead or think that he is dead, that he's been dead. And that's still a very real possibility. In fact, a Republican Congresswoman, Lauren Boebert from Colorado, I don't know what it is about Coloradans like really stepping up with this Trump assassination, Biden dropout thing, but Coloradan representatives are like, show me the money, right? So she demanded proof of life from Joe Biden after his withdrawal from the race. On July 22nd, she tweeted, quote, "I demand proof of life from Joe Biden today by 5 p.m. He needs to get in front of some camera and discuss if he's aware that he dropped out. Hiding is completely unacceptable." The reason she says this, and the reason a lot of people think this is super sketchy that he dropped out the way he did, is because the letter that he posted on social media doesn't have a presidential letterhead. It's just on like his personal letterhead. And the signature that is signed on this letter does not look like the signature that he has signed like live on executive orders many times in the past. It looks a lot different, in fact. So the fact that he did not come out and say like, hey, I'm dropping out, it started to get people really, really concerned that he wasn't the one dropping out, that somebody else was doing it for him, which is still possible. Because we all know that the deep state controls President Biden as well. And his absence and all the timing of all this was just incredibly suspicious. So later the same day, a doctor's note was tweeted. I don't know if they still call it tweeting now that it's X. I don't know, whatever. Showing that Biden had COVID. They're like, look, see, he's alive. He has COVID. And I love her. Boebert snapped back and replied, "A letter from a doctor is not proof of life." Like, she's right. Like, yes, anybody could put a doctor's note out there. It doesn't matter. We want to actually see him and make sure that he's okay. Is he alive? Like, where is this guy? The leader of our country is missing. And still on July 22nd, the same day, Harris flew to Delaware to quote unquote console Biden's staff. Like, what do they need consoling for? Because he has COVID? Like, is he a dick when he's sick? Does he have a man cold? Anyway, that was weird. If Biden is dead, it makes sense as to why the letter he posted didn't have the presidential seal on it, why it was just like a plain letterhead. But this has all been planned as well. So a little while back, I did an episode on John McAfee. He was tweeting a lot of weird things in 2019, 2020, and then mysteriously killed himself in 2021. I say mysteriously because it's like an Epstein type situation. I don't think he actually killed himself. Anyway, in July of 2020, he tweeted, quote, "Russia's first time traveler has returned. Guess what he said? In September, Biden is medically diagnosed as unfit for office and quits. They discovered that the DNC has legal power to choose a replacement without a national vote. Weird, huh? You'll never guess who they choose," end quote. Of course, at the time, because it's 2020, we've got President Trump still in office. We've got Biden running against him. Everyone thinks that this is about the upcoming 2020 election, but that wasn't true. And everyone thought that McAfee was just going crazy, like he's just nuts. Here we are, 4 years later, and it seems to be coming true. But again, this isn't the only prediction. Isn't it weird how there are so many predictions about this? The Simpsons also in the same episode kind of predicted this, but President Gerald Ford said something very odd back in 1989. He was asked by a little girl if there would be a woman president, and he said there will be a male president and a female vice president. And in that term, the president will die and the woman, the female, will become president under law. Because, of course, we all know that if the president dies, the vice president becomes the president. Harris is the first female vice president. Now, other presidential candidates have run with female running mates, but they just didn't get elected. So there was not a female vice president. She's the very first. But is he dead? And if he is dead, wouldn't it make sense to tell everybody that way Harris just becomes president? She can be the first female president. And then they're like, cool, we got one. Check that box. because I don't think that the deep state actually wants a female president, but who knows? Maybe they think that they can control Harris just like they can control Biden. He did finally address the nation from the Oval Office on July 24th. That doesn't mean he's alive. That means that somebody playing Joe Biden potentially addressed the nation. There has been a lot of speculation that Jim Carrey is actually playing Joe Biden. So they have similar face structures, which would be helpful when they're trying to put a mask on somebody. And we know that Jim Carrey has played a lot of roles where he does wear masks, so we know he's comfortable with that. Maybe this is all just an act. And masks have to be in play because just the other day, Jill Biden was in Paris at the Olympics and at the White House at the same time. So obviously, somebody's playing these characters. It's like a Sims game at this point. It's ridiculous.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Speaking of the Olympics, what the heck is going on there? You cannot tell me the New World Order isn't behind this because, wow. Did you see the opening ceremony? Of course, it started with like the Parade of Nations, as it always does. The parade was on a river with the athletes on boats, so that was like really cool. They had a zip line to Notre Dame. They had this light show at the Eiffel Tower. Even Snoop Dogg helped to carry the torch before the ceremony began. But none of those were really the problem. Everyone's like, oh, that's cool. Celine Dion performed, like Lady Gaga performed. There was all these cool things. But they had a couple weird things that people are enraged about. The first one was kind of just making people like more uncomfortable. So a French heavy metal band performed while headless women dressed in red appeared in windows of a building. This beheaded woman was supposed to be Marie Antoinette. And all the while they had like flames erupting around and it was like very aggressive, which seems like a little too aggressive for the opening ceremonies. It just made people kind of uncomfortable. Yes, Marie Antoinette was executed in her time, but it just seems odd the way they depicted it at the ceremony with fire and a heavy metal band and all of that. But that's not even the worst. The thing that's really getting people is that they had these drag queens and dancers just strung all over this table as if they were depicting the Last Supper. The Last Supper is a painting by Leonardo da Vinci representing the Last Supper Jesus had with the 12 apostles before his crucifixion. More specifically, the moment after Jesus announces that one of them will betray him. If you want to read about it, it's in the book of John in the New Testament in the Bible. In the center of the table, singing, was a person dressed up as the Greek god of wine, Dionysus. This person was fully painted blue and was wearing almost nothing. They basically had like a sash of flowers that kind of wrapped around their body, but that was it. The problem was that they were making fun of Christianity and Catholicism, or at least that's what was portrayed, right? The people are pissed off that you will make fun of the world's largest religion on a global stage. Because you know that they wouldn't make fun of Jews or make fun of Muslims in this way, but they make fun of Christians and Catholics this way? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And they think that they can get away with it. So this has caused such an uproar, such an issue, that the Olympics had this video removed from YouTube. I tried to find it. I didn't watch the opening ceremonies. I tried to find it. I couldn't. I found pictures, but I can't find the actual video of this act. But of course, the Illuminati card game predicted this, because one of the cards is labeled France with a picture of the Eiffel Tower, and there's like lights coming off of it, and it says, quote, "France has always loved liberal causes. France's power can be used to defend any liberal group you control." Again, that's probably like for the game. But the fact is that they are saying, like, France always loved liberal causes. I understand wanting to be inclusive of, like, the LGBTQ community, whatever, right? But the fact that this is the way you wanted to include the LGBTQ community was to depict the Last Supper, when you know that typically the Christian community and the LGBTQ community don't always get along, or like the Catholic community, they don't get along. I'm not saying that they, like, Catholics and Christians hate the that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that typically, if you look at big scale, they don't love each other. They could have used drag queens and dancers and all this in a different way. But because the way that they did it, they're receiving backlash. So a major company, Ceasefire, pulled all of their advertising from the Olympics for this mockery of the Last Supper. And in fact, they hope to increase viewership of the Olympics this year, but with this performance, viewership is at an all-time low. People are boycotting the Olympics because of this. It's interesting to see the New World Order, the Deep State, all these organizations at work, and I think it's funny that we can now, like, see it, like, they're being more blatant about it. As if, like, conspiracy theorists are going to stop talking about it. We're not going to stop talking about it. But anyway, until next week, my friends, stay skeptical, and I will see you all then. Hey friends, The Rabbit Hole is an independent podcast with everything you hear done by me, Danny Mercy. I appreciate all of your support. Please rate and review wherever you're listening. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at rabbit.holepodcast. And thank you, Zakar Valaha, for our awesome intro.